Okay, I'm going to show a quick tutorial of how to set up the Timelapse Plus view in a 3-axis Genie Syrp along with Sony a7R III. So the first thing you want to do is connect the Syrp link cable right here between the Syrp Genie and the Mini. The original Mini, not the Mini 2. You have to use an original Mini to be able to link these two together. You also have to do the new firmware upgrade on the Syrp. You can find that on Google how to do it. I think it's 2.4.4 that allows these to work with the new apps right here that I'm getting ready to hook them to. Then up here you have the Mini 2 for your vertical or tilt axis. Then from there I have the Syrp 1C link cable that goes, it has two 2.5 plugs on the end. There's one on each end, so it plugs in from here into the Timelapse Plus view. I'm gonna go ahead and cook this up and get it going where I want it to go. So the top one will be the pan and tracking, so that's these two items here. And we're gonna link those up first. That just takes a second. A long second, by the way. And then I'm gonna hook up my Mini 2 up here. I have everything hooked up. So we're connected. Now we're going to go into we're going to go to keyframe. You must do this from keyframes. We're going to do a new setup. So we're going to have a start button. So we're going to start it by moving the Syrp to where we want it to start, to linear. This is the linear. This line on the right is your linear movement. So let's get that started. Get everything set up where we want to start at, and then we're going to hit the start button. Then we're going to do the end button. So we're going to start down here on this end. Maybe right there. And then we want to pan back around this way with the camera, so we want to get that fixed. And as just a for instance, I want to shoot the stars a little more, so I'm going to pan up, try to get the sky a little bit more. And the photo shoot I'm going to do has got a pond, and the sunrise will be to the right. So this is a night today. Now you hit the start button there. And before we hit the end, I'm just going to show that on the Timelapse Plus view, we're going to stop that. We were still in the same mode a minute ago. Anyway, we have it set on auxiliary, on the interval mode, on auxiliary. You can also go into settings and be sure under motion equipment that you're set on auxiliary 2 setup. Just click on that, go back out, and go back to time lapse. Now, one thing to remember, we're going to be determining the interval on the Syrp. This is going to be determining the shutter speed for the ramping from day to night. So in the ramping options, we'll go down there. As you can see, I have it set to 6400. I typically start mine off, if there's a little bit of a moon like there's going to be tomorrow, I may start off at like 3200. My minimum is 100 ISO. I have my camera set on 100 ISO right here. And then my shutter, I've got it 6 seconds only because I'm shooting that now. You want that to be a couple seconds longer than whatever you have your Syrp set to. So if you have your Syrp set for 13-second intervals, you don't want this to be over 10 seconds long. You need a couple of seconds to download the photos. So I always turn off highlight protection. And so basically that's the settings there. Now we're going to go ahead and do the finish here. So we've already had our start point. Now let's go over and move this to where we want it to finish at. So you can see, you can put this wherever you want. So however many hours, we're going to do this a few hours, I'm going to set right here. I also want it to be panned over toward the sunrise. And I also want it to be down to catch some of the water, the reflection of the sunrise in the water. So that's where I want to stop. So I hit end, so we're done. Now here's the settings. All these are set up. It's going to go back to the starting point for us. The one thing you got to make sure is down here on the bottom that you set your mode to time lapse. Once you do that, you've already got your parameters set for start, pan tilt, your linear, and your finish pan tilt. So you only want to start your record time, which would be typically maybe 3 hours. I like to start and stop it so that it's, I always go past where I want my sunrise to be, so that when it gets sunrise, so we have sunrise at 7:30. So if I'm going to start at 5:30, I want to go past that point and set it for 3 hours, so it goes to maybe 8:30. But I want on that 3/4 kind of mark, I want it to be facing toward the sunrise, if that makes sense. That's something you have to play with and just learn. I don't know how you figure it out really. But anyway, I'm gonna set these minutes for, just so you can see movement, I'm gonna set it for 6 minutes. And our 6 minutes. Our interval's 2 seconds. That's gonna give us 7 seconds of video. So now here's the trick that you have to do. So on your, first of all, you want to make sure that you're not overexposed, because you're going to get the warning if you are. Now I've got some of the outside in here, so I'm not worried. I'm going to get the warning. I'm at 1/5 of a second, 2.8. I've got some highlights clipping in my light. I'm not going to worry about that. It's going to show up on here, but I'm not going to worry about it. So the first thing we want to do is, wait a minute, I started. I need to stop it again so you can see it. First thing I want to do is go to the time lapse and start it. Once we start this, we're going to see come up on here starting, and now it's going to say waiting for auxiliary. That's when you push this button. Now it takes the photo and then it moves. I don't know if you can see the movement. I'm going to hush so you can hear it for a second. Now this is a short amount of time. This thing shakes a little bit because of the nature of it being the L bracket, but typically we're shooting 3 or 4 hours in this time frame, and you won't have the movement quite as quick. Every 2 seconds we're getting, or every 3 or 4 seconds we're getting movements. I've got it set, I think, for faster movements just so we can see the movement. And we also got the highlights warning on here. You don't have to X out of that unless you want to X out of it at first so you can see your exposures. But because I'm overexposed over here a little bit, I got that warning. Don't let that warning bother you. If you scroll down, it says it's still going to shoot. The only warning you got to worry about is the one that says it's not working with your camera or your link cables. Typically it's a link cable that's not quite making a good connection that causes that warning about the link cable. I have this pink one, so 2 things. It's a heavy duty high-speed link cable that I bought online, and also it's only 1 foot long, and it's pink so I can see it at night, so I don't bump it loose while I'm hooking my other cables up. Typically I shoot from night to day. But you can see the movement's working fine, it's firing. And like I said, 2 things to remember: update the software on the Genie. If you have the original Genie, you have to have the Mini, original Mini, and then the Mini 2. So all these can communicate together. You go into auxiliary 2 and make sure you're set on your time lapse to auxiliary 2, and the intervals will be controlled by the Syrp. The shutter and everything else will be controlled by the Timelapse Plus View. So we should end up with a really good time lapse here. This is only moving fast for you so you can see it right here now. Hope that helps. Thanks.